There comes a moment in every man's life when he starts to notice something about women that doesn't quite make sense. The woman who once seemed endlessly devoted, the one who once clung to the relationship as if it were the center of her universe, suddenly begins to drift away. She no longer sees you with the same eyes. She no longer treats the relationship with the same urgency. She no longer fears losing you the way she once did. And if you've ever watched a woman cross into her 40s, you might have noticed this shift becoming even sharper, even more undeniable. Today, we're going to uncover a truth that very few men are ever prepared to face. Why women shift their loyalty after 40. This is not a story of bitterness or accusation. It's a deep exploration into the female psyche, into the forces of biology, psychology, and society that pull women in new directions as they move into the second half of their lives. If you're a man in his 30s, 40s, or beyond, this video will open your eyes to dynamics you may already have felt but never fully understood. If you're younger, this will serve as a warning, a way to prepare yourself before you're blindsided by the shifts that happen as women evolve with age. By the end of this series, you will see that women are not mysterious because they are irrational. They are mysterious because their psychology follows laws that most men have never been taught. And once you understand those laws, you'll never again be caught off guard when loyalty changes form. So let's begin. Part 1. The biological clock reverses its grip. When a woman enters her 20s and 30s, one of the strongest forces in her psyche is her biological clock. Her body is wired for fertility. Her hormones push her toward mating, nesting, and creating security for the future of her children. Loyalty during this stage is not just emotional, it's strategic. A younger woman often ties herself to the man who seems stable, protective, or capable of offering the resources and emotional structure that she can build a family upon. But after 40, something profound changes. For many women, the biological urgency begins to fade. Fertility declines sharply. The pressure of raising children may already be behind her, and the primal force that once pushed her to cling tightly to one man begins to loosen its hold. She no longer feels bound by the same instincts that made her fight for the survival of a relationship in her younger years. This doesn't mean women stop desiring love or intimacy after 40, far from it. What it means is that the basis of loyalty shifts. In her 20s, loyalty was a matter of survival, of ensuring stability and protection. After 40, loyalty becomes more about emotional fulfillment, personal growth, and self-expression. This is why you often see women at this age questioning their long-term relationships. They may ask themselves, am I truly happy here? Is this man still inspiring me? Still bringing me passion? Still making me feel alive? If the answer is no, then the instinct to stay, an instinct that was once deeply tied to reproduction and security, begins to dissolve. For men, this can feel shocking. You might think, but I've given her years. I've been consistent. I've built a life together. Why would she suddenly change? The answer lies in the truth that the anchor of her loyalty has been uprooted. What once bound her to you biologically and socially is no longer there. So the question of whether to remain becomes entirely psychological. This is why men often experience the phenomenon of a midlife crisis in reverse. While men in their 40s may suddenly crave youth, adventure, or vitality, women at the same stage begin craving authenticity, freedom, and emotional depth. If her partner cannot meet these evolving needs, she feels justified, sometimes even compelled, to shift her loyalty elsewhere. Part 2. The rise of self-identity and emotional independence. Another reason women shift loyalty after 40 is the awakening of self-identity. In youth, many women define themselves through relationships. A boyfriend, a husband, children. These roles shape how she sees herself. Society reinforces this by rewarding women for being nurturing, supportive, and devoted to others. But once a woman reaches 40, something radical happens inside her psyche. She begins to ask, who am I? Outside of being a wife, a mother, or a partner, what do I truly want? This is the stage where women often rediscover forgotten dreams, passions, and ambitions that were buried under the responsibilities of family life. And here lies the hidden danger for men who assume that loyalty is permanent. Because as she rediscovers herself, she may also rediscover dissatisfaction. She may realize that the man she chose years ago was the man she needed then, but not necessarily the man who can match her now. Her loyalty shifts not because she is ungrateful, but because her definition of fulfillment has changed. In her 20s, fulfillment was safety. In her 40s, fulfillment is meaning. If her partner is not offering a vision, if he is not providing a sense of emotional adventure, then she will feel starved, even if all her material needs are met. This is why so many divorces are initiated by women in midlife. Statistics consistently show that women over 40 are far more likely than men to walk away from long marriages. To men, this feels like betrayal, but to women, it feels like rebirth. She's not leaving because she never loved. She is leaving because she feels she cannot fully become who she is, meant to be within the limits of the relationship. Psychologists often describe this stage as the rise of individuation. Women stop being defined by others and start insisting on their own voice. And once this process begins, loyalty is no longer tied to obligation, it is tied to inspiration. Part 3. The emotional reckoning. Why stability feels like a cage. In the early years of a relationship, stability is everything. It is the fortress a woman seeks to shield her from uncertainty. A man who provides a home, financial security, and emotional reliability often becomes the center of her devotion. She invests her youth, her time, and often her body into building this fortress alongside him. But after 40, many women begin to see stability differently. What once looked like safety can suddenly begin to feel like stagnation. The routines that were once comforting now feel suffocating. The predictability of her partner's habits, his lifestyle, his conversations, his goals, or lack of them, can trigger a deep sense of restlessness. Here's the paradox. Men often believe that loyalty is the reward for building a stable life. But women over 40 often experience that very stability as a prison of sameness. The meals, the vacations, the rhythms of everyday life, if they do not evolve, become a silent weight pressing down on her. It is not that she doesn't appreciate stability. It's that her emotional needs have shifted from survival to vitality. At this stage, she no longer asks, "Am I safe?" She asks, "Am I alive?" This is why so many women in midlife suddenly pursue passions they once ignored. Art, fitness, spirituality, or even new relationships. They are not abandoning stability out of recklessness. They are seeking intensity, because intensity makes them feel awake. This is when loyalty begins to unravel. She may still love him, but she can no longer give her deepest self to a man who stands as the guardian of sameness. She feels betrayed not by his actions, but by his refusal to grow with her. And once she feels that, her loyalty shifts, not because she is unfaithful, but because she cannot remain loyal to a life that feels like slow death. Part 4. The mirror of aging. Why she seeks new validation. One of the most profound and painful truths men must face about women after 40 is the impact of aging, not just physically, but psychologically. For a woman, her 20s and 30s are years when she feels most desired by the outside world. Compliments, attention, admiration, all these act as constant reinforcements of her feminine power. But as she enters her 40s, the world's gaze shifts. Society, unfairly obsessed with youth, begins to overlook her. The compliments fade. The competition from younger women rises, and she begins to feel a silent fear. Am I invisible now? This fear is not vanity, it is existential. A woman's sense of identity has long been tied to her ability to attract, to feel wanted, to feel significant in the eyes of others. When that power begins to slip, she experiences a crisis. And during this crisis, she turns inward. Here's the catch. If her partner does not recognize this storm inside her, if he assumes she is fine simply because the marriage looks stable on the surface, then she feels abandoned in one of her deepest battles. She may feel unseen, undesired, and taken for granted. This is when many women begin seeking validation outside the relationship. Sometimes it is harmless. She dresses differently. She posts pictures online. She rediscovers her sensuality. But sometimes it takes a darker path. Flirtations, emotional affairs, or even new relationships. Why? Because she needs to prove to herself that she still matters, that she still has the power to inspire desire. That time has not completely stripped her of her feminine energy. Men often misinterpret this as pure betrayal, but in truth it is a desperate cry for significance. If her partner had continued to affirm her beauty, her energy, her uniqueness, not just in words but in the way he looked at her, touched her, desired her, she might never have sought it elsewhere. Her loyalty shifts because the mirror she looks into every day, her partner, no longer reflects back the woman she wants to see. Instead, he reflects routine, duty, or indifference. And when the mirror stops showing her value, she seeks another one. Part 5. The Social Awakening. Why she no longer fears judgment. In her younger years, a woman's loyalty is not just tied to her partner. It is tied to society's expectations. Divorce, disloyalty, or walking away from a relationship carry immense stigma when she is younger. She fears being judged by friends, by family, by her children, even by her community. This fear acts as a leash, keeping her bound to loyalty even when she feels dissatisfied. But after 40, that leash often breaks. Why? Because she has already proven herself in society's eyes. She has been a wife, perhaps a mother, a caregiver, a supporter. She has fulfilled the roles expected of her, and now she no longer feels the same weight of external judgment. If she leaves, she knows people will not look at her as a reckless girl. They will see her as a woman who has earned the right to choose differently. Society, ironically, gives her more freedom at this stage than it did when she was younger. This shift is critical. When the fear of judgment disappears, her loyalty becomes fully optional. She no longer stays because she has to. She stays only if she truly wants to. For men, this is the most dangerous turning point, because if you have relied on obligation, tradition, or social pressure to hold her in place, you will find yourself empty-handed. At 40 and beyond, those forces lose their grip. Only genuine desire and respect keep her loyal. This is also why women at this stage often inspire each other to make bold moves. Friends, support groups, even social media communities give her the confidence to prioritize her happiness over appearances. She sees other women her age walking away, starting over or reinventing themselves, and she begins to believe she can too. Part 6. The desire for emotional depth over practical bonds. When a woman is younger, she often evaluates relationships through a very pragmatic lens. Is he stable? Is he reliable? Can I build a life with him? These are the questions that shape her loyalty. But after 40, the foundation of loyalty undergoes a radical transformation. Practicality takes a back seat, and what rises to the forefront is emotional depth. This is where many men misunderstand women at this stage. A man thinks, I've provided, I've been loyal, I've been consistent, why is that not enough? But for her, those things no longer hold the same weight. They were valuable when she needed to raise children, build a home, or prove to herself and society that she had stability. But now she begins to crave something beyond the material. At 40 and beyond, a woman wants to feel seen in her soul. She wants conversations that stretch beyond the weather, work, or bills. She wants intimacy that is not only physical but deeply emotional. She wants a partner who challenges her mind, inspires her spirit, and makes her feel that love is not just an arrangement but an adventure of two souls growing together. When a man cannot provide this depth, when he clings to the shallow comfort of routines, her loyalty weakens. She may not leave immediately, but internally she starts withdrawing. She may still cook meals, raise children, share a house, but her heart begins to wander. And when her heart has wandered, loyalty is already broken in spirit, even if not in action. This is why so many women describe feeling emotionally divorced long before they leave physically. They stopped feeling seen. They stopped feeling emotionally connected. They stopped feeling like their partner was a source of growth. Part 7. The hidden power of freedom and choice. There is one last truth about why women shift loyalty after 40, and it is perhaps the most important of all: freedom. For much of her life, a woman's choices are limited. She may have chosen a partner in her 20s because of social pressure. She may have stayed in her 30s because of children. She may have remained loyal in her 40s because of financial dependency or fear of judgment. But as the decades pass, as children grow, as her financial independence often strengthens, and as her self-identity matures, she begins to realize something radical. I can leave, and I will still be fine. This realization is liberating. It dismantles the last barrier that once guaranteed loyalty. She no longer feels trapped by obligation, dependency, or fear. She knows she has the strength to stand on her own, to rebuild, to reinvent. And once a woman feels that freedom, her loyalty is no longer bound by survival. It is bound only by choice. For men, this is both frightening and empowering. Frightening because you can no longer rely on external pressures to keep her by your side. Empowering because it means if she chooses to stay, it is a pure choice, uncoerced, unforced, deeply authentic. But here lies the danger. If you do not grow, if you do not inspire, if you do not bring emotional vitality into the relationship, she will use that freedom to leave. Her loyalty will shift toward the life that feels most alive. This is why many men in midlife find themselves blindsided when their wives walk away. They believed loyalty was permanent. They believed decades of commitment guaranteed permanence. But in truth, permanence was only ever an illusion. What remains real is her freedom and how she chooses to exercise it. The truth men must accept. So what do we take from all of this? Why do women shift loyalty after 40? It is not because they are fickle. It is not because they are heartless. It is because their psychology evolves. Their needs change and their vision of life transforms. In their youth, women give loyalty as part of survival. They stay because they must. They stay because society demands it. They stay because their biology pushes them to protect stability for children. But after 40, all those forces weaken. What remains is the raw truth. Loyalty must now be earned, inspired, and chosen. This is the harsh reality most men refuse to accept. They think loyalty is a permanent contract signed in the past. But loyalty is not a contract. It is a living, breathing flame that must be kept alive every day. If you are a man listening to this, the lesson is simple but difficult. Never stop growing. Never stop inspiring. Never stop bringing depth, vision, and passion into your relationship. Do not allow stability to turn into stagnation. Do not allow routine to replace romance. Do not assume her loyalty is automatic, because once you assume, you are already losing it. And yet, if you rise to the challenge, if you embrace your own growth, if you keep evolving and leading, then a woman's loyalty after 40 can become the strongest, purest, most unbreakable form of devotion. Because at that stage, she is no longer staying for biology, obligation, or fear. She is staying for you. The truth is simple. Women shift loyalty after 40 not because they stop caring, but because they finally begin to live for themselves. And if you want to remain part of that life, you must be a man who is worth choosing again and again, no matter the age.